Hello everybody, John Hardy with you on the John Hardy Show. The show is going to be a little bit different today because we have had a number of questions come from nations all across the world. So I thought we'd be really good to work through those questions, and then we've got some really cool tips to work through and give you some really interesting content and practical solutions on everyday business that you and I struggle with and that I work with clients on a regular basis. So let's start from the top with a really interesting question from Trinity in London, who has an accounting practice. And this is all about goal setting. So that's the question that Trinity is raising for her accounting practice. So goal setting is really a fascinating dynamic in any and for any organization. And so Trinity and her team, in the way she's going, is she sets goals for herself and for the business. And she keeps herself accountable to them. There's timelines. So, the whole really interesting concept of SMART goals: specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed is a really interesting way of doing that. Another way to do that is a Gantt report, which is GANNT. Look it up. It's a really interesting way to set out where you're going as a business. Really powerful to do. However you're going to go about doing it really is good, and Trinity is doing that. The question Trinity is asking is, I ask my staff to do what I do. So I'm modeling goal setting, but I'm asking my staff to do it, but I'm asking them to use initiative and being self-motivated. The question Trinity asks is, I am not sure if they're doing it, and I'm not sure what's going to happen going forward. What should I do about following through on this dynamic that I'm wanting to bring into my business and for my staff? So Trinity, let me tell you, what you're doing so far is really, really good, up to the point where you've said, right, staff, can you go away and set your goals? So that's really, in a sense, the art of delegation. You're modeling what we're doing. This is important to the business. But then what you're doing is, because you've created an aspirational value that goal setting is important. But in your mind, it's an actual value. And so the staff are working off an aspirational value. You're working off an actual value for you, and you're setting yourself up for failure because the staff don't know how valuable and important and essential it is in the whole dynamic of the business. And the other principle you've engaged in, which is really good, you've delegated to them, and you've said, staff, I want all of you to set goals for yourself in the life of the business. So delegation is really powerful, but you're missing an important ingredient. And I use an online platform to do this deliberately with leaders when they're working with their staff, because it brings accountability, and that's what you need to bring into your room: accountability. You've done it for yourself, and so it's not an aspirational value, it's an actual value for you. You want to bring it into your staff so they know and understand that setting goals is not only important, but you're actually going to ask the question, is it smart, realistic, achievable? Is it smart, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timed? Is it scalable? Who else is involved? What kind of dynamics are there in the essence of your goal? Are they simply motherhood statements? So spending time, and here is a really cool thing that you can do, Trinity, is about professional development and work with them. You could get somebody in like myself to work with you and with your staff and do a workshop on goal setting. It's not hard to do. You could do that yourself. And then say to the staff, from this moment forward, not only are you going to set goals, but I will either work with you as teams that we have as a whole organization, or we'll break you down into smaller groups, or we'll do it, Trinity, I will do it one-on-one with each of my staff. So they go away, they write their goals, and then I'll sit down with them and help them make those goals. And this is what is really important. Make them realistic. Make them so where they're in a sense where they under-project and they overperform. And that way they're encouraged rather than over-projecting and underperforming, which is called discouragement. And you want your staff to actually grow and develop. So all great things so far, but you are missing accountability, and you're missing an opportunity to spend either one-on-one time or in small groups or in group dynamics as teams to bring accountability into their room to say, this is not an aspirational value, this is an actual value that I really do want to do that. So the third area for you, Trinity, is what I call crucial conversations. And it's always difficult to have crucial conversations. And the principle you want to understand in doing that, and there's a book called Crucial Conversations. It's well worth reading. Many of my clients have read that book, especially in team dynamics. And there's really cool things in there. But what you're trying to do is move away from passion and personality, and you actually want to do people. You want to really do relationship. And when you do those two things in the crucial conversation, you'll engender the relationship, you'll deal with the principles, and the person will be enhanced and developed. So Trinity, put those into practice and watch the difference it's going to make for your business and for your team to actually be a stronger team. And folks, apply that to what I've said to your business today. Act on that today. Our second question comes from Steve in Brisbane. He has a finance brokerage and he wants to help his staff develop. And Steve has come up with quite an innovative dynamic. So similar to Trinity, she's come up with a really interesting dynamic for her team. Steve is approaching it this way. He's forming a book club. And what he's doing is that the book will be the book of the month that everybody will read as a material for them in business. So it might be from good to great. So Steve is asking what kind of books could actually really be helpful for us as we do the book club. So let's take a book like Good to Great, Steve. Oftentimes it's a book that you would read because it's all about the dynamics of moving a business from just being a good business to being a great business, understanding what great businesses actually look like. But imagine this. The idea of a book club is not to read the book. The idea of the book club is to actually engage the heart that you are wanting to engender in the very dynamic of your business. So there is plethora of reading material out there. I mean, there really is. In leadership areas, in business areas, in money areas, in finance areas, there's lots of books. What I would do is, Steve, is initially step back and actually put some values around your book club. What is it that you really are wanting, the heart question that you're really wanting to see move in you, in your team, where you actually want them to grow? So that's a really important question. The other question is to actually scan across your team who are going to be in this book club and ask yourself this question: where are their weaknesses? Where are their development areas? Where are they strong that can really be enhanced and move them from a 7 to an 8+ type performer? Ask the questions about relationships, the team dynamics. I think they are really important questions, because if you do not have a mission and vision and value statement for your book club can go down rabbit holes. Because what will happen is, not only will you find books, but your team will find books. They'll Google them. What are good books to read? What are the top 50 books to read in the next 5 years? Or what are the 10 books that you should read this year? And you type that in, you'll find those books. You really will, Steve. But it's not about that. I really want to challenge you, Steve. Write a mission and vision and values statement, half a page of what this book club is about. The other half of the page, do a benchmarking assessment of where your team is today, and then choose books that are appropriate. Now, if the team are having interpersonal relationships, I would suggest a book like Crucial Conversations will really upskill people into have those kind of dynamics. If you want to get people to understand that you want to move the business from a good business to a great business, read the book Good to Great. I think that's the kind of research that you want to do, which will help you choose books and put them through a filter of what's going on. I remember reading a really powerful book simply called Execution. And what it was about was, don't have committee meetings, have meetings that every single committee meeting has a very strong and powerful execution strategy. So Steve, the material out there is really powerful. If you put those principles in practice, you'll be able to choose really powerful books that will put through that filter and will really enhance and build your team. So Steve, let me know how you go. Would love to hear back from you. And I can email you directly, and I'll give you those details, or you can contact me through YouTube and we can do that to help you more specifically. Now, here is an interesting question. This is from Cam in Atlanta. Cam has a water filtering company, and here is a very challenging question that is happening with the growth of our workforce being strongly millennial. And they're asking some really interesting questions of business today. This is the question that his young staff are asking Cam in Atlanta. How does the company, this is the question they've specifically asked, how does the company deliver conscientious capital investment through the company, and how are they doing conscientious capital investment? Now that is a really very specific and very interesting question by the young staff members, and there's two questions in that. Firstly, Cam is asking, is this a trend and should I take note? And if it is, what should I do about it? I think, Cam, I love the fact that for me as a baby boomer, I'm being challenged the way I think by my Gen X, Gen Y, millennials, really, and the zeros that are coming through into the workforce. Really interesting. They think differently. And Cam, you might be like me, a bit of a baby boomer, or you might be a Gen Xer, and even the millennials are challenging you. I think it's really good because oftentimes we in life live with blinkers on. You know, this is the way we do business. This is what we think about. There's a triple bottom line, or there's a simple one bottom line. It's simply all about profit. And people are asking interesting questions. And your team that you value and appreciate are saying, what are we going to do about conscientious capital investment? What are we doing about aware of what's going on in the world around and about us? So I love the question. What should you do about it? I think you have a great resource sitting in front of you. Simply create a focus group with some of these young leaders, get in a room with them and discover their context, because they're going to have a very unique context of how they want to see your company, which has a unique widget about it anyway, how you as a company can actually be involved in conscientious capital investment through who you are and what you actually get involved in doing. They are your best resource because they've already got this idea, this passion pulsating inside of them, and they are saying, how can we do this as a company? We want to do this. Can you give us an avenue? We're energized, we're mobilized. And I think when we do this as companies, listen to our staff. And I remember one of the reasons why Ford Motor Company turned itself around in America is because the CEO got out of his desk and went down to every dynamic and aspect and attitude and department of his company and went to listen to the team telling him stories. I know of a story in Australia of a major company. They were potentially going to go broke. The new CEO was taken from the board, put in as the CEO, and he was asked the question, save us. He simply went to the workforce and said, this is where we're at, told them the honest truth. What would you do in your area to help us? And the staff came up with outstanding ideas that really helped them dynamically as a company, turn the company around, and they became a dynamic leader here in this nation of Australia, a national company. You have that potential, Cam, for you and your team to be leaders in this wonderful space that new people are asking the questions about. Great question. Get a focus group together, talk, listen to them, energize them, release them into their potential. Not only they will do something outstanding in this area of conscious capital investment that they will invest in, and you as a company will invest in, but they will value the fact that you're honoring them and releasing them to actually do that and value their opinion. Our fourth question for today comes from Candice in Singapore, who is selling hairpieces. Widgets for me are widgets, and Candice, well done. And she said, I'm almost about at 6-figure turnover in sales. Candice, well done. Outstanding. Now, she's been doing this all by herself. Again, Candice, well done. Fantastic. You have been working really, really hard. She now knows the business is at a place, profitable-wise, and with the demands on her time, that she actually needs a new staff member. This is, Candice, this is a tipping point. Really powerful to read that book. And Cam, if you want to read a book, there's another book for you. The Tipping Point. Really powerful, short book, really cool. Another really interesting one, even shorter book, is Who Moved the Cheese? Really will get some interesting conversations going. Check that out. And books that you can work with. So Candice's question is, do you have any suggestions to help me hire my very first staff member? And this is the question that we have in business all the time. When should we hire new staff? And so I was with a client just yesterday. Last week he put on his PA. And this week we're working on putting on his contract sales manager. And we're working on that. And it's got to the place where he now needs to multiply himself into other people and release himself from some of the responsibilities that he has. So Candice, what I would encourage you to do is to step back and start to think, what kind of work do I do? What kind of work do I want to stop doing that I want to give away to my staff member? And just get a piece of paper out and start to think of the things that I don't want to do that anymore. My staff member can do that. And through that, you're actually going to figure out what kind of person you actually want to hire. So it might end up being a PA. It could be the fact you want somebody who is very good at putting hair pieces together. Simply their job is to put the hair pieces together. You can handle the rest of the business. It might be that you want somebody to actually go out and do some of the work that you've been doing door to door, selling your hair pieces into studios and into salons and into beauty wellness centers, etc. You maybe want them to do that. That's your challenge, Candice, is firstly to figure out what is it that you want to stay doing, and what is it that you want to start doing that's new, and what is it that you want to stop doing that you want to give away to your new staff member. Very simple. Write it out, think about it, and begin to delineate those areas. Then how do you find them? There is lots of ways in which you can do that. In Australia, we have seek.com. I'm not sure in Singapore, it could work for you, but there is apps like Indeed, which is an app, you can put job adverts on. What I do is I would encourage you to do something like that. So work out your job, what you're going to do, work out what you don't want to do, delegate that to this new staff member, create the kind of job. But I use Harrison assessments. I am sure that there would be somebody in Singapore that if you searched Harrison Assessments Singapore, there would be somebody who could actually help you. And Harrison Assessments does two things. It actually gives you the profile of the person, but it gives you the profile of the person into the unique job that you're wanting that person to do, and it will tell you some very powerful insights, and that is how well they will enjoy the job and how well they will be empowered in the job. And there's a whole bunch more reports in there. So something like that could be really powerful. You might simply want to do a disc profile on how they will behave and how you need to communicate, if they're fast or slow paced, if they're people or task, if they're combinations of those, etc. So there's some really interesting profiles, and I would encourage you, most good companies set good practice by actually profiling. Write your job description, discover what it is that you want to do, let them do the rest, get a profile, put an advert up, and then you're going to have to do some hard work of interviews, and that is interviewing people, whereas Harrison can actually save a lot of that time. It's well worth checking that out. So there's some really interesting insights for us today on questions that businesses are asking on an everyday basis that come flooding into my channel, come flooding into our business, asking us to help them so they can do business better. Great to be with you today. Be back in just a short while with some more really cool insights to help you in your business. Great to be with you. Love doing shows to help you do business better. I want to walk you through a couple of tips in this next little section for us. And the first one I want to launch out on is I love doing this and helping businesses understand they are important. So business tip I want to share with you is take 15 minutes. And this is, you say, what do you mean, John? So stay with me, stay tuned, stay listening. I want to help you understand this. So this is for you, and you can apply it in lots of different ways. But what I want you to do is I want you to apply this to you in business, for you in business to grow as a better business person. And this is investing in you, the business owner, the entrepreneur, the leader, the key member of board, where the role is that you are functioning in this conversation that you're listening me to. It's about investing in you 15 minutes every day. And this is really important because I'm not asking you to, jump through a major hoop and say, right, give me an hour. It's all about starting small. Let me illustrate it this way. There is a tree that ends up being an absolutely massive tree, but it comes from a seed about this big, and it's called the acorn. And the phrase goes, from small things, big things grow. And that is, the acorn, when it's planted, ends up being a massive tree called the oak tree. And so if you want to go on Google now, and as you're listening to me, have a look what kind of size oak trees look like. So by starting small, what you're doing is you're letting yourself cultivate habits, practices in you that will actually do you good well into the future, that might end up that some days you're taking a day investing in yourself, whatever that might be. So, and I know this, any one of us can find 15 minutes in any one day to invest in ourselves. And in that time, I love doing this. When I'm working with my clients, telling them this story, I'm saying this is about being earthy. This is about being disconnected and not being distracted. So this is an environment where there is no phones, there is no computer, and what I do encourage you to have is either a pencil or a pen with a physical journal, something that you can actually tangibly touch and feel and write in. And I think it's really powerful to do that for yourself when you're engaged in that. Now, let me illustrate it this way. You might say, I'm going to invest 15 minutes of my time once a week will be the John Hardy Show. I'm going to listen to either a podcast or I'm going to watch a video, and I'm going to take notes deliberately for my own personal development. And so I have segments that are 5 minutes long, 10 minutes long, 15 minutes long, 20 minutes long. They vary in size, so you can log into those either on iTunes or on YouTube and take that time. So there's resources like that are very good for you. Or it could be like I really encourage a number of my team when they're doing this, when I'm coaching them, is no distractions, no phone, no computer, with a cup of tea, cup of coffee, on a veranda, in a park, somewhere where you're away from people, from all kinds of distractions, where you can really focus in on you and let you rise up. And this is what you're going to do, is to ask yourself, what is going on in my world? There is a very powerful principle about being still, letting quietness into your soul, into your mind, into your body. And that's why sometimes it's really great to be out in nature. And it was interesting, I found recently that 70%, from what I understand, 70% of the earth is green deliberately, because green does us so much good when we're in that environment. We kind of wonder why is there so many forests, and why are lots of our plants green, and why is grass green? It was designed that way for us to be renewed by encountering it, by touching, feeling it. So being in an environment like that is very powerful for you and very good for you in many dynamics. So when you're spending time with your journal, with your pen, your pencil, you're away from all those distractions and you're asking yourself the question, what about me? What's going on in my world? And for me, one of the exercises I do in helping me become still is to actually get out of that environment and sit on a chair that is designed for me, that I find that really comfortable and powerful. So check out where is going to be best for you. And you're asking yourself, what's happening in my life? What's happening in my business? What's happening with my staff? What's happening with my executive? What's happening in my leadership? Where are blockages in my world? Where are obstacles that I'm struggling with? Where are areas of confusion that I have? And you're asking yourself those kinds of questions because you're asking yourself, where can I grow? And you want to take some time to actually think about that, because you are important. And if you're in any kind of leadership, leaders need to spend time on themselves. And that's why I love coaching leaders, because they are going to influence tens, 20s, 50s, hundreds, sometimes even thousands. And what we're asking is, when we're asking these questions, where can I raise the level of who I am and what I'm about? Where can I lift my game in who I am and what I'm about? Where can I lift my business in who I am and what I'm about? Where can I impact influence in and around my world, either within the business or outside of the business in the larger community? And that's what I'm doing when I'm doing this. I'm broadcast all over the world, so I'm establishing that there's opportunity for me to have influence in many other places. And here is something really interesting when we're in this space. You will elevate your ability to dream and to think bigger, because you're moving away from the noise, the white noise that surrounds our life and surrounds our world, You know, when I get up in the morning, go into my office, the white noise that hits me if I'm not careful is emails. You know, they are there and they come rushing at you. So it will help you dream bigger. It will help you develop greater confidence. And you'll be able to make decisions faster because you're giving yourself space to think. Remember, this is 15 minutes every day, and you'll start raising up better leaders around and about you because you're thinking more strategically about who you are and who they are, and you'll see opportunities like you've never seen before because you'll have those aha moments and you say, you're able to recognize them because you are doing the deliberate act of being still and allowing your brain to capture the environment that you're in. And this is the power of personal investment. And we sometimes think, I have to invest in others. Yes, you do. Yes, you need to invest in your family. Absolutely, you need to do that. But you need to learn to lead you and lead you well. And when we do this, options arise, and this is what you will say to yourself. I never imagined that we would be doing that. And the reason is because you never imagined you could ever do that. And by taking those 15 minutes for yourself for personal reflection and personal engagement, you will stop saying that. I imagined us doing that, and now we're doing that. And it happened quicker than I ever imagined it could be, is because we're releasing the potential. And we are quite amazing. We move from addition to multiplication quite rapidly when we are doing these kind of dynamics in our world. So I want you, and I'm challenging you, I'm asking you, I plead with you, I arm twist you if I could, take 15 minutes a day, try 5 days a week, try 4 days a week, choose it, do it regularly, and it's going to be a really great enhancement to you so you can do business better.